The SimRuito sim racing pedals are the latest budget pedal sets that have turned up here for testing. Now before we dive in, this is the unassembled kit on my table so you can see what we're working with: 3 pedals, a pedal deck and a selection of supporting accessories. If you're familiar with my channel, then you know what's coming up next. We're going to go through the product features in detail, and then for the final part of the review, onto the track for testing to comb through the performance of these pedals. So the positives, negatives, all that stuff, along with my final verdict. Let's get started. The pedal frames are powder coated steel. The pedal faces are aluminium. Checking the thickness of these metal parts, it's 3mm. We're going to stick with the throttle for a moment and then we'll go through the other 2 pedals. The full length pedal face is ideal for heel and toe shifting, and the bolts are flush, not sticking out. That's always good to see. The pedal tension has 2 points of adjustment. The first being is simply rotating the collar to add or reduce the preload on the spring. The second point of adjustment is the position of the rod connecting to the pedal arm. Raise it to increase the pedal firmness, or lower if you prefer a lighter tension to the pedal. The pedal stop sits in a channel, so you can bring it forward to alter the distance of pedal travel. The separated sections of the frame are designed for changing the pedal face angle. The pedals feature bearings. This ensures smooth pedal motion and long-lasting wear. This is a load cell, the sensor for the pedal. Pressure input is applied from a small spring placed between the load cell and pedal arm. The clutch pedal shares 80% of the throttle design. The difference is a shorter curved pedal face and the raised spring. The rod pushes underneath the spring while the extended bracket swings in an upward motion. The mechanism is intended to emulate the sensation of a clutch pedal. The brake pedal is of course load cell based, but housing a more substantial one than the 2 other pedals, with a max load capacity of 200 kilograms. I've used other brake pedals featuring 200 kilogram load cells, so this is not unique, and neither is this style of pedal design. So the interesting part comes when we study the interface between the pedal and load cell, in other words, the spring stack, as these are always slightly different between brands. Pre-installed, this brake pedal comes packing 3 soft red elastomers and a metal preload spring. In addition, the SimRuito brake pedal includes 2 more sets of elastomers plus a selection of die springs. With these accessories, we're able to tune the feel of that brake pedal, and that's a crucial part of extracting the most performance out of a load cell brake, an aspect I will cover in lots of detail when we get to the testing segment of this review. For the moment though, I'm just showing you the procedure of swapping out the springs. It requires no tools and easily done even with the pedals fully mounted to a sim rig. Replacing the preload spring with a die spring, I'm not able to push the plate back in. So we need to drop an elastomer from the stack to make this work. This is another potential setup. The blue spring in the middle isn't supported by a grommet, so it could drop down, ending up resting against the rod. This complete die spring stack shares the same situation. I've yet to test these arrangements, I'm just experimenting here to see what fits and sharing this with you, so I can't say for sure if any of this will be a problem in actual use, but I will provide some feedback later in the video once we hit the track. The pedal mounting plate is powder coated aluminium with a raised heel section. There's no sharp edges or corners, it's nicely finished. The pedals bolt into slots so the pedal spacing can be adjusted. The line of M8 round holes on the sides are for attaching the pedal plate to your sim rig. The controller board is housed in this metal box. The pedals plug into one side and the USB cable on the opposite end. The SimRuito pedals come with its own calibration software. The software works just fine. This is a brief look to show you. There's nothing here we haven't seen before really, but a feature I do like that is better than most other pedal calibration software is being able to enter the brake force using an actual measure of weight rather than setting the max brake force by pushing on the pedal and clicking a button, where the outcome can be more random. By entering a precise weight makes setting up the brake completely accurate and far easier to make small adjustments later on. The positive observations of the presentation and build quality of the SimRuito pedals that I expressed in my initial unboxing remains mostly intact. I'll get onto the details in a moment. Now, over the course of the month I've been using them, I've encountered no issues with game compatibility or mechanical sturdiness of the pedals or anything relating to EMI. They get a technical clean bill of health. Out of the box, I did notice a couple of very small nicks in the powder coating where the bare metal is visible. None of this affects the performance of the pedals, and maybe your pedal set won't come with these slight imperfections. It is something to bear in mind that when we look at some of these budget pedals from AliExpress, the attention to detail from pedal set to pedal set can be variable. I have the pedal plates bolted to a couple of aluminium profile rails, but there's no support in between, so it is sort of floating here, and you will see flex when I stamp on the brake. That's essentially unavoidable because how I have it attached to the rig. Ideally I should have incorporated some kind of support across to deal with this, so that's a me thing rather than a deficiency with the pedal plate. I will add, I don't notice this flex, I only discovered it because I've watched the footage, so it's not anything that has bothered me. Overall, the pedal mounting plate is well designed. It's a good size, along with that generous raised heel deck area. I'm going to walk through each pedal and discuss how each one has performed. The throttle, clutch and the brake in that order. It won't take too long to cover the first two pedals, but there is quite a bit to dig through once we get onto the brake. The throttle pedal is supported by spring resistance. Now these pedals don't come shipped with added gas springs as standard, but SimRuito do sell the gas springs as a separate accessory. Over the past couple of years I've reviewed plenty of these budget pedals that came with gas springs installed, and I can say with a position of authority they aren't necessary if the main spring resistance is already doing a good job. Gas springs do increase the pedal resistance as their main function, and sometimes that could be too much that some people might not like. They also add a layer of texture to the pedal sensation, which I do find pleasant. But it's not a game changer, and honestly it's not really worth paying extra for. Put it this way, you're not missing out, but of course you're free to try them and reach your own conclusion. The throttle comes fitted with a spring that I do find provides a good firm amount of tension, and it's easily adjustable, which is a feature I also do like. The pedal motion is smooth thanks to the ball bearing pivot. There's a good amount of pedal travel for modulating the pedal inputs. I have that fully opened here, but you can reduce the pedal throw if you want to. I found no side-to-side pedal play on this one or the other two pedals. That signals the parts are manufactured to tight tolerances. The clutch pedal is simply an extended version of the throttle, so pretty similar but bearing its own particular spring arrangement that effectively changes the pedal feedback. And yes, you do get a realistic clutch-like feel from it. In Wreckfest on this track, the clutch is taking quite a beating and it's certainly able to absorb any heavy action. It's a decent solid pedal and supported by a good strong spring. I found heel and toe shifting is comfortable with these pedals. The long throttle pedal face is an easy target to find when performing those fancy foot gymnastics while downshifting. So the throttle and clutch pedals, no complaints for me, they're both doing a fine job. And because the pedal spacing is adjustable on the pedal plates, I've set them close together on purpose, specifically to make heel and toe shifting a bit easier for me. So the throttle and clutch, no complaints for me, they're both doing a fine job. Also important is the feel of the pedals under my feet and the accuracy of the input. These are aspects which are also really good with these two pedals. There is no problems whatsoever I can really bring up for you. Okay, so moving on to the brake pedal, this is where we're going to spend a little bit more time on, since there's a few bits we need to discuss regarding the spring stack, because we do have a bunch of accessories we can adjust to get a different feel of the pedal depending on what we're looking for. This is not my first rodeo setting up a brake pedal, so even before I set out on track, I already had in mind how I want my brake to feel, a combination of firmness and distance of pedal motion. So what I'm doing here is how I like the brake pedal, not necessarily what you're going to go for, but I'm just going to go through my rationale, so maybe that's going to be useful to you. This is the out-of-the-box stock setup. The red elastomers, I'm told, are 65 Shore, and here I am essentially testing the pedal feel to discover if it's set up right for me. Immediately, I found this too soft, and also the pedal travel was far too long. Something to observe is my overextended ankle as I push deep into the brake. That's not ideal and not comfortable for how I have the pedals positioned on my rig. Swapping out the red elastomers for the set of 50 Shore black elastomers, I did not expect an improvement as these should be softer than the reds. This is just for reference so you can see the compression of those elastomers. I must say this seems to be identical to me to those red elastomers. I was giving them a good old squeeze and I can't tell a difference between them. These clear ones come in at a rating of 75 Shore and indeed are the firmest ones here. This is an improvement for me. I am still finding the length of the overall pedal travel is still a bit much for my liking, but it does feel closer to what I want. So I think it's time to introduce the die springs and see how we get on with those. The red spring is the second strongest from the 4 springs we get. And now the hardest spring, the thick green one, and this is the arrangement I settled on, which is pretty obvious as you'll see this throughout the entire racing footage I recorded for this review. I tried stacking 2 springs, but I found something was rubbing in one section of the pedal compression. I felt a kind of bump in both the forward and backstroke, so I gave up on this idea. The 50 and 65 Shore elastomers I do consider are too similar, so that is a bit of a wasted opportunity. I would have preferred if they cut the 50 Shore sets from the lineup and the 65 Shore elastomers to be the minimum, and instead maybe add a 85 Shore set of elastomers instead. But of course along with the 75 Shore set. So yeah, 65, 75 and 85 I believe would be a better balance in my opinion. I am happy with those die springs though, so I'm glad they were included because they did end up being a part of this setup which I ended up with. Yeah, so I'm satisfied with how the brake pedal is zeroed in for me. It's within the working range that I like, so about medium. I don't want something too firm. I want a bit of movement on there, but I don't want it too soft and the pedal travel to be so overly long because it just slows down the braking. You want something that you can be pretty quick on the brake but also have some sensation from it. So medium I believe is kind of like the perfect range. So 2 clear elastomers and the green spring. Yeah, that's working really well for me. If you're interested, I set the brake force in the calibration software to 75 kilograms. That's well under the 200 kilogram capacity of this load cell. The performance of the brake is precise. Right from the get-go, it was working for me, and my braking control was as good as my moderate level of skill. Any errors were simply down to me. The pedal itself was providing an intuitive connection with the car. I was exploiting the feedback from the pedal, the application of pressure I was feeling, and the progressive motion and build-up of tension from the pedal. This set of SimRuito pedals has been running just great for me. I encountered no problems setting them up or in use, and materially well made and sturdy. The price is cheap and the performance has been spotless. Based on my month-long testing, they've been a joy to use, so I would recommend them. I know some people get in a twist when deciding which Chinese budget pedals they should commit to. The thing is, they are all almost identical across the board these days when it comes to the design and the materials used. I can just tell you from my personal experience, when I'm using these pedals or a set of Simjack or Simpson pedals, it's virtually an identical experience. And the only practical factors that separate the brands is the pedal calibration software and the brake spring accessories. Everything else is arbitrary, so it may be just you like the look of a pedal set over another pedal set. That could be how you're going to decide. Of course, the price too. All of these pedal sets come in at a similar cost, but at the time you're comparing, you may find one is offering a better deal than the others, so maybe that's the way to choose. So if you're on the fence on which one to choose and is going to post a comment asking me brand A versus brand B with a question mark on the end, I won't have a definitive answer for you. It just comes down to superficial elements over any standout advantage. From my perspective, testing and then writing the script for this review does feel like deja vu, and a whole lot of it is interchangeable results and relevant to other pedal sets that look like the SimRuito pedals. That's not a bad thing. We're looking at an optimal design used by multiple budget brands. That just works really well, hence they are basically copying each other. Just embrace the gift that the super affordable pedals are available. If you have watched to the end here and you like what you see and heard, go for it. These SimRuito pedals have passed my scrutiny. I like them a lot.